Greetings, class. Today I want to introduce you to my research topic, which involves examining the critical contributions of Henry Knox in the Revolutionary War and the overall cause of the American Revolution. Now, the American Revolution was certainly one of the most defining moments in American history, as American patriots fought and gained their independence from Great Britain. Within America's early founding period, historical scholarship and the common teaching of history has often focused kind of on the celebrities of the Revolution, being George Washington, Patrick Henry, Thomas Jefferson, Paul Revere, which has left some of the dynamic contributions of the lesser-known individuals going unnoticed or at least undervalued. One of those individuals is a man from Boston, Massachusetts by the name of Henry Knox, who was a bookseller that became a self-taught military historian and a strategist that would prove exceptionally useful in the First Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. So the goal of this research was to examine the roles that Henry Knox played within the different campaigns of the Revolutionary War, as well as his contributions to the overall cause of the American Revolution in setting forth the new nation at the war's conclusion. So throughout the 1760s and 70s, tensions between the American colonists and the British were high, and they continued to rise. And a tipping point came in 1770 during the infamous events known as the Boston Massacre. Now, these events would play a significant role in Knox's life as he was a witness to these events, and he actually came to action during this as well. According to scholar Richard Archer's account in As If an Enemy's in an Enemy's Country, the British Occupation of Boston and the Origins of the Revolution, as tensions escalated outside the customs house, Knox actually warned the British private Hugh White that if he fired his weapon, he would die. And upon the arrival of British reinforcements, he literally grabbed the British captain by the name of Thomas Preston by his coat to sensibly advise him against any aggressive action. Now, in researching Henry Knox, he's one of those individuals that it seems like at every important event of the American Revolution, he's somehow there. And so this moment, the Boston Massacre, it played a key role in his life, and it's just one of the many events that he was a participant at. And so when the Revolutionary War actually broke out with the fighting at Lexington and Concord in the spring of 1775, Knox abandoned his bookstore in Boston and voluntarily joined the militia army, kind of fulfilling the passion he had always had as he was always interested in military affairs. And throughout those events, he fought valiantly at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Following its conclusion the next month, he would actually meet George Washington as he was forming the Continental Army, and Washington was immediately impressed with Knox's extensive military knowledge and his efficiency during the battle at Bunker Hill. Now, Knox's most famous contribution to the Revolutionary War came in the form of his Ticonderoga Expedition, which has been captured in a picture entitled The Noble Train of Artillery by Tom Lavelle, and also is covered extensively in a new book by William Hazelgrove entitled Henry Knox's Noble Train. During the winter of 1775 to 1776, Knox led a expedition to newly captured Fort Ticonderoga in an effort to get weaponry and artillery back to Boston to prevent the siege. And so Knox is credited with actually coming up with this idea initially, setting forth this plan. And not only that, but he actually volunteered himself to be a part of this mission as well. And it's a heroic mission, hauling some 60 tons of cannons and other artillery from the fort near the Canadian border, some 300 miles through the harsh conditions in order to supply Boston. And it was key in setting forth America's first ever artillery, really. And so Knox was key in this way. And so within the text, Washington and the Generals of the American Revolution by Rufus Griswold, Knox's assignment here is covered as a heroine tale, stating that with an ardor of enterprise which few possessed, Knox volunteered to bring ordnance to the camp. And despite the difficult task in front of him, never yielded to the despondency, and he gallantly accomplished the task, forming the basis for the Revolutionary Artillery. Knox continued to be selected for many tasks due to his incredible, undaunting valor, as his peers would notice. And according to historian Mark Thompson in his work Guns of the Revolution, Knox's willingness, determination, strategic mind, and commitment to the cause earned him an extremely valuable place within Washington's inner circle. And so it thrusted Knox on a rapid ascent, unlike any other, really, through the military ranks, leading him from being a volunteer to a colonel within a matter of months, and eventually leading the Continental Artillery until the war's conclusion. In all, Knox was involved in many different Revolutionary War campaigns, from firing cannon fire at the Battle of Bunker Hill to fighting alongside Washington throughout New York and New Jersey. He also strategized the logistics of Washington's famous crossing of the Delaware River in 1776, another famous moment captured in imagery. And he helped orchestrate America's victory at the Battle of Trenton. He was also key in setting forth the siege of Yorktown near the war's final conclusion. And ultimately, as the war concluded, Henry Knox was established as the first ever United States Secretary of War. And Knox was absolutely key in this role, and his influence is still seen today, as he was adamant that the new nation, despite this initially being a setback, as it would take quite a bit of work and quite a bit of expenditure, he was adamant that the nation not depend on other foreign nations for its defense. And so he dictated that the nation would have to produce its own arms, and ultimately throughout history we've recognized the tremendous advantages that come from producing one's own arms. And so he was key in this role. And so the American Revolution consisted of many historically significant events, many different campaigns, and through it all, we see that Henry Knox was key in a lot of these different events, and he was deeply influential in the war's outcome in that way. Henry Knox, in many ways, exemplified the colonial American resistance in volunteering first for the militia army, in leading a courageous expedition to provide the Continental Army with its first ever artillery, fighting valiantly in many different battles across different campaigns, serving a pivotal role as the colonel of the Regiment of the Artillery, which is what ultimately gave America the firepower that it needed to combat what was at first an overwhelming British army. And so in helping win the war, he was also key in being America's first ever Secretary of War and setting forth the trajectory of the new nation. And so this is a story of Henry Knox. Thank you.